Good evening, and welcome to Dementia Diaries, a caregiver's journey. Tonight, we're going to be talking to Jennifer Davis. She's going to be telling us the story of her father, Randy, and her grandmother, Juanita. They both had vascular dementia. So she's going to share her experiences and challenges that she's had as she's taking care of them. Hi, Jen.
Hi,
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thanks for
Um,
having me.
You're welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
I am 45 years old, and my dad and his mom both had vascular dementia diagnosed. I have one sister and my mom, and I currently live in Florida.
Awesome. Well, we're going to just get ready to just jump right into the discussion. So let's talk about your father first. So
Okay.
when was he diagnosed and what age was he, if you recall?
He was diagnosed close to the end of his life.
Right.
He passed away when he was 70 years old, and I mean all the signs were there before, but it wasn't until he was being in the hospital, being seen more frequently, that a doctor diagnosed him. He was 69.
Okay. Now, when they told you, the doctors, where you found out that he had dementia, what was your reaction?
Honestly, I wasn't surprised,
Okay.
just because his mother had it previously, and so that was even 10 years before
Okay.
he was diagnosed. Or actually more than that, because she passed away in 2003, so it was even longer ago than that. So I wasn't surprised, and I was actually upset, because I feel like if we would have known sooner, that maybe things could have been different, because he had a lot of health problems, and I think that all ties in together with dementia.
Did you notice any signs that may have led you to believe that something may have been going on from the dementia standpoint?
Yes. So in 2001, my dad had to have emergency quadruple bypass surgery. When he had that surgery, at that point, he did not know that he had any health issues. So he had surgery, he was in the hospital, he recovered, and then he started to kind of not be himself. I have a sister, and him and my mom, they always have lived with my sister and her husband, and he would get so confused with the names, the kids, the grandkids. It was constantly going back. He couldn't get the names right. So that was the first thing that I noticed. And then he would just, some of the questions he would ask, he would like if he was looking for something, he would ask if he was looking for it, kind of like looking for reassurance. But now looking back, I think he was just trying to remember what he was doing. A lot of confusion, a lot of broken bones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did he ever start repeating, saying the same thing over and over? Did you notice anything of that nature?
No, not really repeating over and over, but more being defiant over and over. I think with him, I think he was kind of already going downhill, because he was close to end of life, which we didn't know that either.
Okay.
So the last year he spent a lot of time, at home with like caregivers that would, like a nurse would come. And so he had walked outside to get the mail one day, and there was complete ice all over the place. And my mom told him not to go outside. He walked outside anyway, slid all the way down the driveway, broke his shoulder, his arm, and his hip, and then couldn't even remember why he went outside. when the nurses, when he finally went home from the rehabilitation center and the nurses would come every day, they would have him do small tasks to try to get him up and moving around. And he would get in the kitchen and just, what are we doing again? Just couldn't remember what they were even, and she had just told him, Randy, I want you to take these dishes and put them up here on the shelf. Just confusion.
Okay. Okay. And so let's talk about your grandmother. What do you recall about her illness?
So I came to see my grandmother. I surprised her. I drove down to Florida and I showed up at her house. And the first thing I ever noticed was, this was at like 8:00 in the morning. We were leaving to go to the beach for the day. She was sitting in her chair and she was watching that movie with the Chris Rock movie with Jackie Chan in it. And she kept saying how funny it was. And I said, yeah, I've seen it before. So she was watching that. When we came home that night, she was still sitting in the chair and she was still watching the movie. Now, it was on a TV station that was playing the movie all day, over and over. There was nothing in between. It was just the movie all day. And she thought she only watched it one time. I said, so you've been sitting here all day watching it all over? She said, no, I only watched it one time. And that's when I kind of thought, well, maybe she's getting older, because she was already 70 years old. And then she would go through the same thing like my dad. Me and my sister, she couldn't get the names right. She couldn't remember where we were going. And she also was breaking bones. And that's what prompted them to actually get a medical diagnosis, because she got up to go to the bathroom one night. And my grandfather found her in the morning in the bathroom, laying on the floor. She broke her hip, she broke her elbow, and she had like a bruise on her head. And she didn't remember why she even came in there or how long she was in there. And so my uncle said, I definitely think something's wrong. And so that was when she was diagnosed, was when she was like around 70 years old.
Okay. Now, did she stay home and had a caregiver, or was she, in a, like a nursing home or memory home or anything?
She was home, and my uncle lived like 2 houses down from them. So him and my aunt and my cousin, they were basically their caregivers. One of them was with them pretty much all the time. It was hard, and it was hard, for all of us, because they both had just recently found out they had cancer. She was okay. She had hers removed. He wasn't. And so they were already taking care of that when all of this came into play. And so it just, it's hard on families, especially if you're a small family like ours. We're small. And at this time, most of us were in Virginia. It's just my uncle and my aunt down here. So I don't know why they never had a nurse, but it wasn't long after she was diagnosed with dementia that my grandfather got really bad. He had lung cancer. And so he was moved into hospice. So let me just say this. After he was moved into hospice, she really went downhill with getting injured and trying to do stuff by herself all of the time. It got so bad that they had to have somebody one of them had to actually stay there with her at night, because they were so worried that something was going to happen and it was not going to be something that could be fixed.
Right. Yeah. Because I know with my family, with my mom, she was in a nursing home at one time, and then we brought her to stay with my brother, and she lived with him, and I had another sister that stayed there as well. So, and this was during COVID time frame. So, they were, she was working from home. So, she was there able to provide more care, but we also got an aide
Mhm.
that would come in. Initially, she would come in for 12 hours. She would stay for 12 hours,
Oh, wow.
which worked out, fine because my sister was able to work, but still keep an eye on things. And then at night, the only thing, her and my brother had to do was really just monitor my mom during the
Mhm.
nighttime. So, yeah. Now, for your grandmother specifically, how did you, because she was in Florida, she was living in Florida,
Mhm.
and you would travel down to see her in Florida.
Mhm.
Could you see significant changes in her as
Oh,
she
yeah.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, you can you when you can s it you can they always say that you can see the decline
mm-hmm,
just in the physical,
mm-hmm,
and you really can because she would it was just it was slow with her, but you could see it.
mm-hmm.
And with my family, it's hard to do when you're in two different places. And so that's another thing that I want to say. When you have a relative that's diagnosed with something like this, you need to pick one person that is going to be the lead, I say, because for some reason, I feel like with dementia comes stubbornness
Mm-hmm.
and anger. I noticed that in both of them. Um, and she never was angry or mean or anything like that. Um, but I feel like you need to pick somebody who is tough enough to really just take control because it can really turn into a big mess.
Mm-hmm.
And, for my dad, it was different because he was already, in the final end stage. He also had congestive heart failure. And so, um, and that was another thing. He could, when you're trying to give them medicine for something else, it's almost like a physical fight because they don't understand why you're giving it to them, or even that they have another medical issue going on. They
So how
don't,
did it work?
they don't understand.
So how did you get the medicine to him? How did you get him to take the medicine?
Well, so my mom, and that's another thing, and not to, I hope this doesn't come out the wrong way, but with my dad and my mom, and having my mom being, my sister works, so my mom's home with him all the time. Um, she wasn't the person that should have been taking on that type of a responsibility because she would let him just say no, and that was the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a lot of missed doctor's appointments, missed medications, missed just a lot of not following up or even doing, going to the doctor on a regular basis just because of the argument or the fight or, you know, and it even got into throwing, I don't know what goes on in their mind because they're still there, but you can see, just like with my dad, just even throwing stuff, I feel like it gets to be such a frustration inside that it's almost like they don't know what to do.
Yeah, and I tell you, like with my mom for the medication, what we had to do was once she got to a certain point where she wasn't taking the medicine or couldn't swallow the medicine right, we would crush it,
Hmm.
um, and and put it in her food. And then like when she was on foods like parade foods and stuff, we would crush it, just mix it up in there, and it to her, make sure we fed it to her first so it would all go down. So we had that. That's what we did. And also, I like the point that you said. Yeah, it's tough for some people who can't handle the agitation and the frustration and the nose and all of that, because maybe they're not accustomed to it or they feel like,
Hmm.
I don't know how they feel. So I know with us it was an adjustment for us as well. Um, I can talk about myself personally because you know, I was the nice one. I'm the baby of the family, so I'm the nice one. So, I never um, did anything really for her to, fuss at or get
Mhm.
agitated about. But the more I stayed and the longer I stayed up there with her, uh, yeah, it began to change. It began to change. And with my mom, she, like I always say, she had a good right hook. Um, because if you come over there messing with her, you're going to have to duck. You're going to have to cover up that arm because it's coming up. It's coming
Right.
up and it's going to connect. So it would definitely connect. And then, there are times when she would get agitated, and we just had to kind of sit back and think about, okay, what is making her agitated? Is she agitated because there's a lot of people around her? Is she agitated because there's a lot of noise? So there are things that, people have to figure out. But you do have to have I'm going to say sort of a thick skin per se,
Very.
because like you said, it's not easy. It's not easy. And, if you're the only sibling or, the only person there, it's hard to definitely make sure they get everything that they need.
Hmm.
You know, if they're in pain or something of that nature. So you have to make
Yeah.
sure that they are taken care of.
Yep.
So, so with your grandmother, so it was your aunt and uncle that
Hmm.
basically took care of her. Okay.
Yeah.
Because they were down here. Now, in your dad, who was up in Maryland, right? That Maryland,
Yep.
Virginia area. Um, how did you, when he was declining, did he ever get to a point where he stopped eating?
Yes, he did.
And how did you handle that and what did you do?
You know, I swear he is the most stubborn person. I just, even thinking about him, sometimes you can't, I mean, all you can do is try. I mean, when it gets to the point where they just don't want to do something, they're just not going to do it. I mean, he was in the hospital and, they're doing feeding tubes and stuff because he's just, no. And then one day he, out of the blue, looks at my mom and says, I want a turkey sandwich with chips. And he hasn't eaten like real food in 2 months. He's just
Mhm.
been, um, but
Did
towards the end, he wasn't really eating at all. He actually ended up in a septic coma.
he,
And so at that point, he, he
now,
wasn't,
was he, when he passed, was he home or was he in the hospital?
he was in the hospital.
Okay.
They, they, they put him in they called it a long-term. So he was in the hospital for like 6 months. And then finally at that point we can't, he's not even eligible. He can't even get a heart transplant. So they sent him to like a long-term rehabilitation. And that place is where he ended up catching MRSA
Hmm.
and something else. I can't remember. Oh, MRSA, and then he was in a septic coma. And I got we fought with the doctors, with the insurance, about getting him in a better hospital, and they finally approved it for him to go to Fairfax. They have the best cardiac unit.
Mhm.
And I had been all, you know, somebody told me sometimes when you take them out of the environment that they're in, when they're in that state and you put them somewhere else, it's going to be the end of their life because it's too much. And sure enough, they put him in the other hospital. He died 12 hours later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So now, okay, so your father had the heart issues
Hmm.
and all of those things. Did you all start planning, for for his passing? Did you start making arrangements for those things?
Honestly, no, because my mom was in denial really bad. I mean, it was really bad. Um, no, she just flat out refused. I mean, she didn't want to hear it. She didn't want to talk about it. She wasn't, I mean, it was just a no.
Mm-hmm.
And that turned into a we're not doing anything because I can't put myself in her shoes to even say how she felt or why she didn't, but no.
Okay.
Yeah.
And being the daughter, the oldest daughter, how did all of this affect your well-being? You know.
um I mean, it hurts, you know, because there was more to it even than that.
Mm-hmm.
My sister is one of those people who does not want to see anybody in a hospital or a casket. Well, who does, you know?
Mm-hmm.
She would not go see my dad. She refused. He actually wanted to come home, um, and they were going to let him because they knew he was dying.
Mm-hmm.
He said, no, no, he cannot come here. I don't want the kids to, you know, my niece and nephews didn't get to see him before he died. I had to sneak my brother-in-law to the hospital to see him. Um, it's just, you know, it's hurtful. You know, my dad had a lot of friends and I have a lot of friends and everybody knows my dad. And I just feel like when somebody passes away, they deserve that honor
Mm-hmm.
to have people come and pay their respects and when you don't give somebody that, I mean, that hurts. I was going back and forth between here and Virginia all the time because I knew that it was going to happen. I just didn't know when. But when they said he's not, when they said he's not going to get better, obviously I'm going to listen to the doctor. They even wanted my mom to. He was even on. He was intubated at one point, and they were telling my mom like, you should
Mm-hmm.
just pull. She would not. I mean, this went on for 3 months, I think. 3 months. That was a
And,
huge
and
fight.
and how did you handle all of this? Meaning, okay, so your father is declining. It probably won't be too much long. What did you do to alleviate some of your stress? Did you find a way to just meditate? Did you go exercise? What did you do in order to calm yourself? So you.
I didn't do any of that, and I wish that I would have, but I was so stressed out because I was here
Mhm.
and my sister was not being there for my mom, and they lived together. And so, you know, I didn't do any of that because, my mom would call me at 11 o'clock at night and in tears crying, I'm thinking my dad died. No, I just feel so guilty. I feel horrible. And then, it's just, I never did that for myself, and I wish I would have, because when he did die, I was a mess.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then, and then you're dealing with people who just, I don't know if they don't care, or they don't know how to deal with their own emotions, which that's probably what it is.
Mhm.
It can break your family up. Let me tell you, it can really change things. And I can honestly say, I said, if anything's going to bring us closer, it's going to be this.
Mhm.
And I was so wrong. So wrong.
Oh wow. So.
And that's just the reality of it, because sometimes it is like that, Of course, we all wish that it doesn't, but it does happen.
And that's true. And it doesn't matter how big your family is or how small your family is. When you're dealing with other people and their emotions and their thoughts and their opinions, there are probably lots of times where you're going to disagree and all of those things too. But I know, speaking from my family side, the seven of us, and we didn't always agree on everything, right? But what I did understand was that everybody had my mom's best interests
Yeah.
at heart. So, you know, being able and getting to a point where you understand that, it kind of alleviated a lot of those, you know, frustrations and aggravations from that part.
Mm-hmm.
But, and with us, you know, we know each other. So you already know that the majority of my family lives up in the, DC, Maryland, VA area, and I'm here in Florida. And so they were there. So they would be taking care of, she was staying with my brother and a sister was staying there as well. And then they would rotate the weekends with the other siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And I would come up for about a month or so.
Yeah.
And then sometimes 2 months, just to give them a break. Because I know they needed it. And, coming back and forth, you can easily see the differences
Mm-hmm.
that were occurring in her body. So that was, that was hard to see because it would make me take a step back, and like, oh my, but then, just keep moving forward. So,
Now, did your mom have sleep apnea by chance?
as far as I know, she did not.
Okay, so my grandmother did, and that was actually part of what they put as her cause of death on her death certificate.
Sleep apnea?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yep.
Did they put dementia as well, or?
That I can't remember, but that is what I do know for sure that they put sleep apnea.
That's very interesting.
I didn't even know that it was that they went hand in hand, but apparently it happens.
I think I saw, and if anyone online have any comments about this too, I know today actually it was interesting that you said that because they sleep apnea has something to do with your brain. It can interfere with your brain functioning and so forth as well. So I'm sure there is a linkage there. So I actually saw that on CNN today. So yeah, but that's quite interesting that they put sleep apnea as a diagnosis.
Well, and she was actually diagnosed with that, and she had this the CPAP machine, and well, she's just like her son, hard-headed, and so you can't always get and then imagine trying to tell somebody to wear this, and they don't want to, or they do it when they feel like it, and she didn't do it that one night, and yeah.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So if you had to, so somebody, Janetta in the comments are saying is that the sleep apnea, it stops oxygen to the brain and it causes heart failure.
Oh, okay.
So that's how the sleep apnea in the brain causes that effect. If you had to tell a caregiver, if you had to give any suggestions, any recommendations to someone that is caring for a parent that has dementia, what would you say? From your experiences, what would you say?
I would say to not take things personal, because you're going to have thick skin. And like I said earlier, if you feel like you can't be the person to stand up and sometimes force somebody to do something, then you need to find somebody who can, because, and I say that because with my dad, I had offered at one point before we even moved, even before I met DJ, when my dad, was starting to have all of these health problems. I had even offered, I will come and take you to your doctor's appointments, to everywhere you need to go. And, my mom wanted to be the one to do everything, but she wasn't. So, and then you have to have communication. And sometimes that's even hard, because if you have a sister that doesn't, you and your siblings are pretty close. Me and my sister are not. So if you don't have people that are really, I guess it's like a team effort, kind of. When it's your family.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to put your personal stuff to the side and take care of the person, because they can't, and just be nice. I guess that's really what I want to say. Is just be kind. Like,
be a support system
yeah.
for each other.
Yeah.
And that is one thing that we did. We were a support system for each other. If somebody was having that day, they could pick up the phone and call one of us, and just talk through everything or whatever. So having that support system is great, and it's a support system not necessarily for your parent, but it's a support system for yourself.
Yeah.
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 So lots of times I see on Facebook and some different dementia groups and so forth, people are just saying they just can't handle it. It's too much. I don't know what to do, and things of that nature. And sometimes I'll provide comments. It's you kind of got to figure out, are they just venting today because this is a really bad day, or is it that they really feel like they don't have anyone and they need help or support. And then at times we would type, people would type in, look into getting an aide, or
Right.
getting a friend. I think last time I had on the last episode, we had one lady, she said her friends, jumped in. They didn't jump in to care for the loved one, but they, brought food for the kids, did errands and helped take care of her. So
Yeah.
she have the time and the mind power to deal with the loved one that was ill. So she didn't have to worry about all the other parts of life that she had to deal with.
Right.
So, yeah, that's interesting. So how much time was it between your grandmother's passing and your father's passing?
She passed away in 2003, and he passed away in 2018, so 15 years.
Okay. All right. So they didn't really you weren't caring for both of them at the same time.
No, but they were the same age when they were diagnosed, which is it's weird. And I feel like it skips generations.
Okay, because I was ready to ask, do you know if her mom or grandmother had?
No, I asked, and nobody on her side of my mom's family has it. And as far as we know, nobody else on my dad's side of the family has it.
Okay.
He had a brother and he has a sister, and no, so far no.
Okay, are they younger or?
His
older?
sister is younger than him. She's still alive. She has a lot of health issues, and his brother was the youngest, and he passed away 2 years ago.
Okay.
During COVID. Yeah.
Do you know if the doctor said, okay, because I know your father had health issues. Did they say whether the health issues kind of brought on the dementia, or did they connect that at all?
Honestly, I'm not sure, because he was in the hospital for more of his dementia than he was out of it, I guess.
Okay. Okay. And when he was home, it's him and his mom, him and your mom, and the daughter and the son-in-law. Did they have to monitor him at all? Meaning, did they use any cameras to monitor him to make sure he wouldn't get up and go outside or?
No, but what they did have to do was, because their house is a 2-level house also, and so they had to bring down they had to clear out their dining room and turn it into like his bedroom, just for safety reasons, because he was falling all the time, and so was his mom. So I don't know if that has to have something to do with it, because every time he went to the hospital, he had the fall risk ban. So they made a room for him downstairs to make sure that he wouldn't, be upstairs falling down steps and stuff. And then my mom always made sure that all the doors were locked and the keys were just put somewhere else, because he wasn't even driving at that point. But when you're dealing with somebody who's hard-headed, they just might wake up one day and say, "Oh, guess what? I'm gonna go try this."
Did you all ever have the issue where he left and?
Well, no, she started locking the door with a key, because after he walked out of the house to check the mail and broke half of his side of his body, then she started, maybe I need to take this a little bit more seriously. Because he would go upstairs. I'm going upstairs to change. And then, we're all sitting there, and it could be like 35, 40. Where's Dad? And he's fell. And
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you all notice like his walking change?
Oh yeah. He was shuffling. I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
Just
real,
Okay. Well, I thank you for taking the time to talk to us tonight and share your story about your father and your grandmother.
Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. Please, follow us, and, if you have any questions or have anyone that have any questions, they can feel free to reach out. And what we'll do, we'll try our best to find an answer to those questions for those individuals. So, but yes, I appreciate you, and you take care of yourself.
Thank you. You too.
You're welcome. So everyone, thank you for joining us tonight. And as you know, our show appears every second and fourth Thursday at 7:00 p.m. If you are interested in being a guest on our show, you can reach us at DementiaDiariesPodcast@gmail.com, or you can visit us on Facebook, Dementia Diaries ACJ, and message us and tell us that you would also like to be a guest on the show. If you have any questions or have any comments, please reach us at the same places, and we'll be happy to reach out to you. Everyone, thank you for joining, and have a good night.